Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope everybody is having an awesome weekend so far. Students, in this class we're looking at IELTS Speaking Part 2. It's going to be about a book that you read. I just updated the question in the video description, so you can now see the question that we're looking at in this class. Welcome, Lewis. Hi, Romelia, our chat moderator. Nurbanu, good to see members. Hi, Deborah. Nice to see lots of students. Ariadna, welcome. So think about a book that you have read. Students, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are the websites that power these live classes. They contain all of our materials, videos, and much, much more. This is our academic IELTS website here. Click this big red button that's just above my head to join our premium IELTS package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. And we are an IDP affiliate. We are a British Council partner and IELTS Test Registration Center. I'm a certified British Council agent. You are in great hands with us. General IELTS, gieltshelp.com looks like this to get over 120 IELTS speaking interview videos and much, much more. Just click these red buttons and you're good to go. When you do that, you can use the code VISIT9 for a 10% discount from even that one-time price. We look forward to seeing you there. You can read all of our success stories on these pages if you're curious about our former students who have passed the IELTS. I sent out the Zoom links yesterday for our premium students on the websites, so you should see that. You have class on Tuesday and Wednesday through Zoom if you are a premium student. And you can check out that playlist if you're curious what those classes look like. There you go. All right. Students, Instagram for schedules. I will be posting the new schedule for the coming week. IELTS_AEhelp and GIELTS help. You can also check out the schedule on the YouTube community posts on the channel. And if you have any questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. We like questions. Shopify also has our course. You can check that out there. Lewis, you're very, very welcome. Yes, task 2. You have to really pay attention to that topic. Okay. Rahul, I'm glad that you got the links for the premium class. That's fantastic. Okay. Deborah, if you haven't received the links yet, send me an email and I'll send those over to you. Okay. The next class, remember everybody, is on Tuesday. This is what our schedule looks like right now. So we have speaking part 2 this class. It's for subscribers. So subscribing to the channel is free. Do it. Then after, in about 2 hours, we have speaking part 3 for everyone. That's going to be through our website. So go to the website. I will show you where. When you go to aehelp.com, you go to your My Student account. Again, you have computer-based practice exams, a full online interactive course, printable paper-based exams, and then lesson videos. And here on the left-hand side, you have this Join Live class. And the student partner speaking and speaking interview practice. The live class in 2 hours will be using this feature here, the Join Live class. Okay, so that's where you want to go. Create an account. You can do that for free on the website and then join the live class via the website. All right. So no class on Sunday and Monday, okay? The next premium student class will be on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the next YouTube class will be on Thursday. So again, if you can't wait till Thursday, just get a premium account. All right, students, speaking part 2, we're going to get into this right now. Let's speak and repeat. Copy what I say, copy how I say it. I speak with, again, a West Coast North American accent. You will hear a very similar type of English on the East Coast of North America as well. So they speak a little bit differently over there on the East Coast in New York and Toronto and Miami, but it's kind of similar. Interestingly, the English spoken in the central parts of Canada and the US, especially in southern US, is quite different from the West and the East. Maybe it has something to do with the ocean. I don't know. But anyway, I speak with West Coast, so Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. A lot of the movies you see in Hollywood, people have similar accents to mine. All right, so speaking part 2, again, repeat, copy what I say, copy how I say it, write down new vocabulary. You will be able to review this class on YouTube as well later. Keep that in mind. Okay. All right, single and savvy at 40. I see that you have a test date picked out in May. That's good. Got lots of time. Make sure to learn well. Get structured learning. Mortazo, if you didn't get that link, then definitely send me an email. Okay. All right, everybody. So your first step when you get to your speaking part 2 in the interview, okay, this is after part 1. Part 1 in the speaking interview is about 5 minutes. You introduce yourself and answer some questions on a everyday topic like exercise or hobbies. And then the examiner says that is the end of part 1. We will now continue with part 2. For this part, I will show you some questions. You will have 1 minute to read these, think about your answers, and then you will have 1 to 2 minutes to speak. I will tell you when to start and when to stop. You can take notes in the 1 minute time if you wish. You have your note paper and your pencil there. Is that clear? A lot of examiners will ask you if that's clear, and then they'll say yes. It is. And then the examiner says, okay, talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. All right. So, talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. Now, your very, very first step, of course, is to read the questions on the card carefully. So you should say the title and author of the book, what the book is about, why did you choose to read this book, what you found interesting or valuable in the book, and why you would recommend it to others. Explain how the book influenced your thinking, feelings, or perspectives on certain subjects in general. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to prepare your response, and you should speak for 2 minutes. Now, this cue card is a mouthful. I mean, a lot of us can talk about a book for much, much more than 2 minutes. So we have to be very quick and clever. Okay, so as I said, step 1 is just read these questions carefully. Okay, and focus on the key questions. Okay. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Before we get into that, step 2 Okay, for those of you who are a little bit new to this cue card, this part 2 of the speaking exam, a very, very important piece that you need to know is that part 2, or part 2, the cue card, is either going to be about a person, a place, an object, an event, or an idea. Okay. So part 2 focuses on one of these kind of categories of concept. Okay. Now, in this situation, the book, what is it? Is the book a person, a place, an object, an idea, or an event? Lois says it's an object. Okay. Anybody else? What do you think? This is an interesting one, for sure. Sometimes it's tricky to figure out. Anna says it's an object. Ferribor says it's an idea. Romelia says it could be an idea. Lee says it could be an object. Anna says maybe it's an idea. The correct answer here, it's a tricky one. Critical thinking, everybody. Critical thinking. It depends. It's a tricky answer. It depends on the book. Okay, so if you're going to talk about a biography, it's going to be a person. If you're going to talk about a story or a historical book, then it's going to be an event. And in some cases, it could even be a book about an object. Okay? But most of the time, it will tend to be either a biography, so about a person, okay? Or it will be a story in many, many cases, especially if you're talking about a novel. Oh, sorry, and I should say, yes, some of you have kind of the right idea. It could be an idea as well, like, for example, a business book. Okay, so how to be successful in business. That's going to be a book that's full of ideas. Okay, so it depends on the book. It depends on the book that you choose. So here you could be talking about a person if it's a biography. You could be telling about an event if it's a storybook, a fantasy novel, or it could be an idea if you're talking about a business book or a motivational book. Okay. Yeah, Lois, exactly. You have to think about the content in this case, right? So if the book is about a person, then consider describing that person's appearance, describe the personality, and then back it up with their actions. So what was that person like? So let's say you're talking about the biography Steve Jobs. A lot of people read that biography over the last few years. It's just called Jobs, right? Here, you would talk about Jobs' appearance. So a thin, tall man with glasses and a bald spot. Right? He is extremely ambitious. Built a $1 billion company, Apple. Okay. And he was also innovative. He was a dreamer. He came up with a lot of innovative concepts like Pixar Studios and the iPod. Okay. So if you're going to talk about a biography like Steve Jobs, you would want to explain a little bit about, Steve Jobs, what he looked like, where he was born, where he grew up, and then his personality backed up with his actions, right? Does that make sense? Romelia says, if the book is Charles III's coronation, it's clearly an event. Yeah, I guess so. I'm not familiar with the book. I'd have to know the book, right? Okay. If the book is an idea, like let's say the famous book Power of Now, many people read that over the last couple of decades. So the Power of Now is an event. Okay, so Jobs is a person. And if it's an idea, then the idea, you would have to talk about the description of the idea. You would have to talk about the reason for the idea, the requirements for the idea, the results, and improvements. Okay? So for those of you who are like, what is Adrian talking about right now? So again, just to reiterate, and for those of you who are in these classes regularly, you know that one of the most important parts for a good cue card response is to have structured, non-repetitive, clear, coherent language. And for that, you have to recognize or realize whether or not you're talking about a person, a place, an object, event, or idea, because there are very specific rules for each of these. In your courseware at aehelp.com, in your speaking section of the interactive course, you will find a description and example for each of these. So, for instance, describing a place. And you could be talking about a place, I suppose, as well for a book. If it's a book that describes a famous landmark, talks about maybe the pyramids in Egypt, for instance, that could be, or a travel book that describes a country. Some people, I know Romelia, you're really into travel, so maybe you're reading travel books, and you've recently been reading about the Greek islands, and you're going to describe the Greek islands and their location. They're in the Mediterranean, close to the equator, subtropical. So you talk about that place, the people who go there, what kind of events happen there. Excuse me. What kind of events happen there, and so forth, right? So that could be a location. And you would talk about the appearance, the history, and so forth. Okay, all right. So this is in your courseware. Again, at aehelp.com. Highly recommend using the premium version of our course if you're going to sit the IELTS. It's challenging to teach you about all of this in one class. So going back to the power of now, right? You would talk about the idea. So the description, it means paying attention and enjoying the moment instead of worrying about the past or the future. So that's the idea. The reason for this is a lot of people lack success and feel depressed because they do not spend enough attention on the now. Okay. So hopefully all of you who are watching right now are thinking about a book that you have read in the last year, maybe 5 years ago, if some of you don't read much. Okay. If you're one of those people out there right now who's like, oh gosh, I would be in trouble if I had this cue card because I don't like to read books and I haven't read a book in a long time, what could you do? Should you panic and run out of the exam room. I've never read a book. Give me a different cue card. The examiner's like, I can't. And you're like, ah! And you run away screaming. Maybe not, right? What should you do? So what should you do? So if you do not like to read books, what should you do in this situation? Yeah, if you read the book a decade ago, Deborah, sure. Very clever, Anahita. Exactly. Convert the content of a film into a book. Exactly. A lot of movies start as a book. So think about a movie that you like and pretend that it's a book that you read. Okay? Absolutely. No, Lewis, I don't recommend making up your own book idea. I think that would be a little bit tricky. I think it's just easier to think about a movie. And by the way, vice versa is also true, right? So, vice versa, should be a small v. Vice versa, a lot of blockbusters have also been made into books. Right? So a lot of the popular films, they also made into books, like Star Wars, if you will, right? So that could be a really good strategy. So when you're in the IELTS, you need to stay calm, not panic, and always focus on solutions. Okay, so focus your speaking on solutions. Okay, everybody got that? I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I think we're right on the edges of the screen. So focus on solutions. Okay. It depends, Anahita. I suppose it could be. Yep. Not sure where that question's coming from, but it could be. Okay, so focus on solutions. All right, so the book, whether it's a person, place, object, idea, really depends on the contents of the book. Does that make sense, everybody? So we've talked about a book that's a biography, Steve Jobs. We've talked about a book that's an idea. One book that I read years ago that I would choose, so if the examiner said, okay, your time is up, please begin speaking. The book that I would enjoy talking about is called Life of Pi. It's a story. Okay, so Life of Pi is an event. It's a story. Okay. Now, when you have an event, you need to think about the location, the time of the event. You need to think about the activities. You need to think about the attendees, and it's probably a good idea to talk about the attendees, the people, before you talk about the activities. Okay. And then the experience. All right, so that's what you need to think about. Now, before you really get into the part 2 response, make sure that you think about, 2 or 3 different ideas. So think about, hopefully, 2 or 3 different books. And in this case, it could be movies that you're converting to books. And then pick one that you're like, okay, I know lots about that. And that's a good one. And maybe even the examiner knows about it so they can understand it easily, right? So never forget step 3, which is think of 2 to 3 ideas and choose the best one. The best one means it's easy to talk about, somewhat original. Okay, it does not have to be super unique. In fact, it shouldn't be super unique. If the examiner is like, oh yeah, I know that book, that's probably a good situation. Okay, and you have lots of content, so you don't repeat yourself. Okay, so that should be step 3. So in step 3, let's say I think about, okay, I've read the book Jobs, I've read the book Power of Now, and I've read the book Life of Pi. Okay, and then I go, which one do I want to talk about? Okay, I'll go with Life of Pi. That's an event. It's going to include the location, the time, the attendees, the activities, the experience. So now I can get into step 4, which is useful notes. Okay. So the location is Pondicherry, India, Indian Ocean, if I remember correctly, it goes across the Atlantic, or the Pacific, maybe? Anyway, maybe Pacific, doesn't have to be for sure, and ends up in the US. Okay. All right. The time is around, so T, time, it's in the book, it's about the 1950s, and I believe he's at sea for a couple of months. Okay. The attendees here is a 10-year-old boy from India. I don't need to claim that. And some animals. The animals are a tiger, a zebra, orangutan. However you spell orangutan. There we go. Orangutan, and I think there's a hyena maybe as well. I can't remember, but anyway, doesn't matter. You don't have to tell every detail of the book, by the way, students. You have only 1 to 2 minutes. So okay, and they represent people. Mom, chef. Okay. All right. The activities. Okay, shipwreck, stranded, conflict, starvation. Okay, I know lots about that. Okay, about what happens in the book. Again, 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, and then the experience, challenge, triumph, psychology, survival. Okay, and if any of you have read the book Life of Pi, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in my 1 minute, if I'm talking about the book The Life of Pi, this is kind of what my notes would look like. And then in the final sentence, or the final step of my part 2 strategy for the cue card, I would build my first sentence. So a fantastic book that I read several years ago is titled The Life of Pi. Okay. All right. Simple sentence. Just really clearly answer the question. Now, is this good before I start? No. A fantastic book that I have read. I'm going to change it to present perfect. Why? because the grammar of the part 2 cue card question is present perfect. Talk about a book that you have read recently. Recently is subjective. I mean, if you want, you can say last month, but it could be a year ago or a couple years ago. Relatively recently. It depends on your age too, right? For me, 2 years ago is still recent. All right, so talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. You need to answer that question, okay? A lot of people hear in videos and read online that part 2 cue card questions are just there to guide you. Be careful with that. That's a very dangerous notion, okay? Oh yes, one. It was made into a movie in 2012, Life of Pi. Indeed, they made that into a movie. Okay. Yeah, the movie's good too. They did a good job. So, I like the book. You really get into the psychology of Pi Patel. All right. So now, once I have this sentence, fantastic book that I have read several years ago is titled The Life of Pi. Now I go through the steps of talking about an event, location. So Pondicherry, India. So this book was written, pay attention to the questions, by Jan Mattel around the turn of the millennium. Okay. And chronicles the life of a young Indian boy as he adventures from Pondicherry, India to the United States. Okay. So, chronicles means it follows, it tells the story of. So, chronicles the life. Okay, pay attention to new English and new vocabulary. A chronicle is like a big story adventure. Okay, all right. So, chronicles the life of a young Indian boy as he adventures from Pondicherry, India to the United States. Okay. So the story takes place in the first half of the 20th century, somewhere around the 1950s. The main character, okay, the main character or the hero of the story, everybody, what do you call that person? Okay, so the main character, what do you call that? We're going to learn talking about books. By the way, students, a really good way to improve your English is join an English book club. There are lots of them online. Just a good tip. A great way to improve your English is join an English book club. There are lots online. Okay. Very nice. So Lee, very good. Ariadna, very good. Juan, yeah. So the main character is usually called the protagonist or the hero of the story. Is the hero, or better said, the protagonist. Now, I guarantee you when you use that kind of vocabulary, that will help your score improve. The main character or protagonist in the story is Pi, a 12-year-old, I can't remember exactly, it doesn't matter, 12-year-old Indian boy. And the opposite, the villain, what is that called? So the secondary character in most stories, or the villain, is known as the, very good, Ariadna. Ariadna knows these. It's called the antagonist. Right. It is the antagonist in the story. So the main character or protagonist in the story is a 12-year-old Indian boy, and the antagonist is a... Anybody know? Anybody read The Life of Pi? Does anybody know who the antagonist is in the story? Nick Hill says it's the tiger. Lee Wang says it's the tiger. Yeah, and I think the tiger is actually representing the chef aboard the sunken ship. So the story is a 12-year-old Indian boy, and the antagonist is a tiger who is likely the chef from the crew of the boat, which sinks in the Indian Ocean. Okay. Other animals that travel with Pi on the life raft or lifeboat include zebra and an orangutan. The basic premise. Premise means like the situation or the context. The basic premise. Okay, pay attention to these expressions here. The basic premise of the story is that Pi sets out with his family and their zoo animals on a boat across the Indian Ocean, and then a storm sinks the boat, killing most of the crew, the animals, and the family, leaving Pi with a few animals on a small dinghy. Small dinghy is like an inflatable lifeboat. Okay. Now again, I have 1 to 2 minutes, so I have to be really careful here how much detail I go into. Okay. Because there are lots of questions here on the cue card that I also have to pay attention to. That's the part we don't know, Juan, whether it was a hallucination or it really happened. Okay, so here it says, talk about a book that you have read recently and why you would recommend it to others. The title and author of the book, what the book is about, why did you choose to read this book? So I want to answer all of these books, okay? Or all of these books. I want to answer all of these questions, right? So I want to answer all of these questions, or as many of them as possible, because the examiner is familiar with those questions, and sure, they might be thinking, oh, okay, they're talking about the book and they're using good English, but if they have such good English, then why don't they have good communication? Why don't they pay attention to the questions that they're being asked? Okay. So you should pay attention to those questions, okay? The reason I read this book is because one of my good friends in my psychology class recommended it to me. I really loved the story, not only because it was exciting, but also because it is very philosophical. The adventures of Pi floating across the ocean as he fights to survive hunger and the challenges of being with a tiger depict the struggles that many humans face in life. Okay, so here I'm just basically explaining, why I read this book, who recommended the book, and I'm paying attention to the questions of the cue card. Okay, it's really good to do that. Especially the last couple of questions on the cue card in the IELTS are usually unique. They're different in some way. And when you answer those questions, especially if you do a good job answering those questions, it doesn't have to be perfect English, but when you do a good job answering those questions, it really, really improves your chances of getting a better score. So here, this question, why would you recommend it to others? Okay, what do you think, everybody? So why would I recommend this book to other people? So why would I say, if you've got a little bit of time, that you should read The Life of Pi? As I English, all people have the capacity to learn good communication and good English. Okay. And Deborah, I see that you're practicing already some sentences regarding the book that you have read. Okay. So, Romelia says to get insight into an interesting topic. Not so much. So again, think about it. Let's read this. Repeat after me, and then maybe you will recognize why I would recommend this for other people. So just read this with me. If you have good English, try to repeat this without reading, just by listening. A fantastic book that I have read several years ago is titled The Life of Pi. This book was written by Jan Mittal around the turn of the millennium and chronicles the life of a young Indian boy as he adventures from Pondicherry, India to the United States. The story takes place in the first half of the 20th century, somewhere around the 1950s. The main character or protagonist in the story is Pi, a 12-year-old Indian boy, and the antagonist is a tiger, who is likely the chef from the crew of the boat, which sinks in the Indian Ocean. Other animals that travel with Pi on the lifeboat include a zebra and an orangutan. The basic premise of the story is that Pi sets out with his family and their zoo animals on a boat across the Indian Ocean, and then a storm sinks the boat, killing most of the crew, the animals, and the family, leaving Pi with a few animals on a small dinghy. The reason I read this book is because one of my good friends in my psychology class recommended it to me. I really loved the story, not only because it was exciting, but also because it is very philosophical. The adventures of Pi floating across the ocean as he fights to survive hunger and the challenges of being with a tiger depict the struggles that many humans face in life. Yes, very good, Indu. So Indu says, I think it's an inspiration. It's an inspirational story of a journey. Yes, I would highly recommend this book to others, friends and family, because it is an inspirational story which indirectly motivates people to rise above their challenges in life and find solutions. Exactly, right? So I think many readers, when they read Life of Pi, they recognize that life is not easy. We're often faced with extremely challenging situations, and as long as we fight to survive, there's a good chance that we will move forward and experience positives. So yes, Indu, exactly. It's the journey and struggle of life. I get the feeling, Indu, you might have seen the movie or read the book, which is great. Okay. All right. Now, again, pay attention to all parts of the question, right? So explain how the book influenced your thinking, feelings, and perspectives on a certain subject or life in general. Okay. And if I still have a bit of time, I might add a sentence about that, right? So, one insight the book gave me is the coping mechanism of humans. In the Life of Pi, the reader never really finds out whether Pi imagined this story and whether or not he was really with animals or they were representations of people. Okay, and then I'm done. All right, so that is definitely 1 to 2 minutes, roughly. Okay, so again, I'll read through this. You can time me. I can check it out. It's 7:19 according to my time. And then you will have a chance to talk about books that you have read. I'll share a Zoom link with you, and then we'll get some volunteers through Zoom, okay? So here we go. A fantastic book that I have read several years ago is titled The Life of Pi. This book was written by Jan Mattel around the turn of the millennium and chronicles the life of a young Indian boy as he adventures from Pondicherry, India to the US. The story takes place in the first half of the 20th century. The main character or protagonist is a 12-year-old boy, and the antagonist is a tiger who is likely the chef from the crew of the boat that sinks in the Indian Ocean. Other animals that travel with Pi on this lifeboat are a zebra and an orangutan who is likely his mother. The basic premise of the story is that Pi sets out with his family and the zoo animals to travel across the Indian Ocean, but a storm sinks the boat, killing most of the crew, the animals, and leaving Pi with these animals or people on this small dinghy. The reason I read the book is because a good friend of mine in my psychology class recommended it to me. I loved the story, not only because it was exciting, but also because of its philosophy. The adventure of Pi floating across the ocean and fighting to survive hunger and danger from the tiger depicts the struggles that many of us humans face in life. I would definitely recommend this book to others, to my friends and family, because it's an inspirational story which indirectly motivates us to rise above challenges in life and to find solutions. One of the insights this book gave me are the coping mechanisms that people have. In the life of Pi, the reader never really finds out whether he imagined the story or whether it was real, and whether these were really animals or people who survived the storm. That's it. Okay, and I think that was pretty much exactly 2 minutes. I just timed it. I think that was almost exactly 2 minutes. Okay, so that would be like your band 9 example to this. Okay, notice how I shortened it. I didn't say exactly what you saw written there, but it's good. Yeah, Deborah, of course the book can be similar to mine. A lot of books have similar kinds of stories. All right. Sapstar, I answered that question earlier in the class. So Sapstar is saying, what if I don't read any books? Remember, Anahita said this. Then think about a movie which is a book or which has become a book, and pretend like the movie is a book that you read, right? Most people definitely have watched several movies that come from books. If you've ever watched Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, those are all books. Okay? All right. Nick Hill, I'm not sure what you're asking. If is it okay the speech is a little low? I'm not sure what that means. Okay, you have to explain that to me, so I'm not sure what you mean by that. All right, students, let's do this. So let me share the link with you here for the speaking. So I want to hear about books that you have read, and I'll give you feedback. Okay. Here's the link. I'm just going to start this Zoom session up. Okay, now premium students get Zoom classes, those of you who are premium students on our website. So I just put the Zoom link in there for you, and I won't be able to use my video, but you can. V is already in here. We've got more people coming in, which is fantastic. Okay, I'll let everybody in here in a moment. The Zoom link is in the chat, everyone. Now, of course, you're going to need a little bit of bandwidth here as well. So let me see who's here right now, and I'll admit everybody. Okay, we've got 5 people in here and more people joining in. Okay, now students in Zoom, you want to use your reactions. In your reactions, you can raise your hand like I just did there that you see on the screen. See that little hand coming up? Then I know that you want to volunteer and try this speaking part 2. Okay. We've got Anahita, Mortazo, Deborah, Asus, so lots more. Fantastic. I'm going to lower my hand. All right. Well, we've got a good amount of people in here. Let me put the Zoom link in there one more time. Okay, so if you don't have Zoom, download it. It's good. We use it for our premium students as well. Okay, there's the Zoom link one more time. All right, let's do this. So Juan, I think you're the first person to have your hand up, so let's get you in here.
Hello,
Hi Juan, how are you?
I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm going to turn up my device sound here so people can hear you better. There you go. All right. Juan, yeah, I'm good. I'm
I want to ask you something. You don't
absolutely.
hear you don't hear like an echo when you talk with me, right?
I do not.
Oh, great.
Why do you ask?
Because I'm using speakers.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah, no, there's no reverb. There's no
Hmm.
reverberation. Yeah, absolutely. It's all clear. Very good, Juan. All right, Juan. Let's let's get you answering this question. Okay, books that you have read. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Good. I like that confidence. All right, so that is the end of part one. We will now continue with part two. For this part, I will show you some questions. Talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. Your 1 minute preparation time is up. Please begin speaking.
A great book I read recently, about 2 years ago, was this book titled Presence by Amy Cuddy. This book is written from the perspective of this doctor who has done some research about human behavior and psychology. She talks about the concept of presence, which means how to show confidence, authority, and specifically regarding leadership and also public speaking. She also gives some tips regarding body language and posture and how to deal with stressful situations. Um, I chose this book like I choose any book. I went to the store. I went to the English section, and I read a couple of pages and the cover, and I bought it. What was interesting to me, it was how it was written, and the ideas this doctor conveys and this research. And it to me was very interesting because these tips and all she talks about is it could be useful for anyone, especially people who have to work in leadership position, or in my case, like because I want to be. I mean, I'm a teacher, and I like to do a career out of this. So to me, it was very useful, and I would totally recommend this book to everyone who wants to be a leader and everyone who wants to make the best out of their careers.
Okay, your time is up. I will stop you there. And we will move on to part three. All right, Juan, that was outstanding. That was really good. Bravo. 2 thumbs up, Juan. That was really, really good. You know what I
Thanks.
really, really liked about your part two response there? I think you would definitely get a high band score there. So that would, I think, be a band 8 to 8.5 for sure. Probably more like an 8.5. So that is very, very close to expert or a perfect score. There were just a couple places where there was a slightly, awkward use of English.
Uh-huh.
And maybe you could have been a little bit faster with some more detail, and of course this book is more of an idea, right? So it's about
Yeah. Did you read it?
I haven't read it, no, but it definitely sounds interesting. So Presence, it kind of sounds like somewhat similar to The Power of Now, um, and and it's an idea, right, of how to be a leader. So what are the attitudes and thoughts and practices that lead to good leadership? And I definitely got that from this. So how to be confident, how to lead, how to express oneself publicly. So all of this comes through from what you're saying, and that was really great. You used very good language. What I liked the most about the way that you told me about this book is that you didn't rush. So you realized that, okay, I've got 1 to 2 minutes to talk about an entire book here. There's no way I'm going to be able to really give a lot of detail. I mean, 2 minutes is not enough to summarize an entire book, right? It's hard to summarize a movie in 2 minutes, yet alone a book that's like a extended version of a movie, right? So instead of trying to rush and give a lot of confusing information, you just made sure that I was very clear about the idea of the book, why you chose the book, why you recommend the book. So you really focused on answering those questions in the cue card. What I would have liked to hear in this case, for me to, for you to convince me to give you a band 9. And this is just, band 9s, it's almost like you have to really be empathetic to your examiner and kind of try to figure out, like, what's that magical little piece that's needed to make it that expert communicator or that expert response. I would have loved to hear the requirements or the results a little bit more. So, when you're talking about an idea, you have to think about the requirements, like what you need, or the results. So if you had given me like an actual exercise that you've learned from the book that you have implemented in your teaching, I would have loved to hear that. So can you try a sentence like that now that you know what I'm talking about? Like some specific exercise that the book gave you, a tip that it gave you, and that you maybe use now in your everyday life.
Yeah, about this book, and when it comes to the results and how to implement them, this doctor talks about the famous phrase "fake until you make it," and she goes a little bit further, and she says you want to fake it until you become it. So sometimes if you are stressed or during a stressful situation, it could be very useful to smile, because your body can send a positive message to the brain, and in this
Perfect.
in that case,
that's all, Juan. That's all. That's all. That's all you need. So fake it until you make it. I love it. Yeah, it's very strange advice, but very good advice. Absolutely. Belief precedes achievement, right? So you have to believe that you will be great before you become great. It usually does not work the other way. People don't just become great and then start to believe that they will become great, right? So you have to fake it until you make it. And that is a lovely direct quote, and it's that kind of little specific detail that can help to push into that perfect band 9 where the listener goes, wow, that was expert English. I didn't just listen to this person, I didn't just understand this person, but I actually learned from this person. And if the examiner feels that they have learned from you, that's definitely going to take you a step closer to that perfect score, to a higher score, right? So keep that in mind, Juan, okay? Okay, that was really good. I'm motivated to check out that book. So thank you.
Yeah, you should read it because it's related to your studies, and it could be very interesting if you haven't read it. And you can tell me later what do you think about it.
I will. I'll check it out. I'll read the synopsis for sure. All right, Juan, thank you for being my first volunteer today.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye,
Thank
Juan.
you for talking to me. Bye.
All right, everybody. So we've got a lot of people joining in on Zoom now, which is fantastic. And I see we've got more hands up. Those of you who are watching live class, YouTube, and we're also using Zoom to interact. Again, here is the Zoom link for those of you who don't know how we're doing this. That's what we're doing. And that was Juan. Thumbs up from Stan and from Ariadna. So the book is called Presence. And yes, presence doesn't mean just being in the now, but presence means like the way that you present yourself to other people. I get it, Juan. It's like the presence that you have in a group or in a situation. Okay. All right. Okay, we've got lots of people in the Zoom. Again, for those of you watching, if you are a premium user of our website, aehelp.com, then you get exclusive Zoom classes each week. So remember to join there. All right, let's give Lewis a chance. Lewis, you can unmute yourself. Mortazo, I've got you on my radar as well. Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Adrian. Can you hear me clearly?
Very much so, Lewis. Very much so. All right.
That's nice.
Yeah. Lewis, so just like in task 2 writing, for part 2 speaking, stay on topic, right? Stay on topic. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I will.
let's start you off here. So that is the end of part 1. We will now continue with part 2. Talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. Your speaking time begins now.
Okay, so the book that I have read recently is named The End of Craving, whose author is Dr. Mark Matuszek. It delves into details as to different types of cravings people may experience, such as the desire for food or holidays, let's say. Along the lines, it also states and explains why people have addictions in life, such as the online gaming addictions. Some teenagers may be having trouble with dealing with it. And also what solutions can be taken to address these addictions. So the reason why I choose this book is because it is related to myself as a teenager and also inspiring, because to be honest, I myself sometimes will also be addicted to online gaming, and also just be glued on my phone scrolling social media. So it helps. So reading the book helps me to actually identify the problems I'm having now, and also getting to know what I can do to resolve the issue. So one interesting experiment in this book is the marshmallow experiment, talking about two types of circumstances, where one is a group of children having a marshmallow, and the other, both group of children having same amount of marshmallow, and one group actually they can't wait to enjoy the marshmallow, and they just eat it up, but the other wait for 15 minutes and they usually get the reward. So it shows that it is always important for us to control our cravings. So that is why I found it so inspiring, and definitely I will recommend it to other people around me.
Okay, your time is up. I will stop you there, and we'll move on to part 3. Bravo. That was really good, Lewis. I loved it. The book Craving. Okay, you and Juan both. I'm happy to hear that people are into self-help books, psychology books. These are obviously psychology related books, and
Yeah, of course, of course.
and I don't, I hope everybody is watching that was here a couple minutes ago, because you did what good students do. You listened to my advice with Juan, and you added a specific piece from the book, this marshmallow experiment with a group of children. And you had a little bit of trouble explaining that experiment, and it's no surprise. And that's why students, that's, when you can do that well, you're an expert speaker, because explaining specific situations is challenging, right? Even in one's own language. So, so it's challenging.
Yes.
So here, Lewis, your band score would be likely around an 8 to 8.5. However, I commend you for your effort on the marshmallow experiment, and you had me smiling for sure, because I'm very familiar with this experiment. So this is the kind of empathy I was talking to Juan about. In my psychology class in university, it's actually called the chocolate chip cookie experiment. And basically, it's exactly what you said. They have groups of children, and they tell the kids that if you do not eat the cookie, when I come back, I will give you 2 cookies. And they try to see how the children react. Do they eat the cookie because they can't wait? Their craving is so strong that they rather eat the 1 cookie than wait and receive the 2 cookies. Or if they can wait the time and then get the 2 cookies. And they actually have variations of this experiment where they say, I'll give you 5 cookies or 10 cookies. So what's the reward system that works? And it's a very interesting part of our psychology. And I loved how you said this experiment. It connected with me. That kind of connection is definitely going to help, even if not just in part 2, also in part 3. Because the examiner won't forget that. Like, I'm going to remember that now for the rest of the interview, right? So
I can also mention that.
And you can make connections to it and relate to it and relate the learning experience. So that was really, really good. Very, very smart. Nice sentences, good grammar, good use of vocabulary, talking about cravings, addictions, why it's useful for you. Exactly. And basically what you're talking about here is how to master oneself and achieve discipline, right?
Yes.
How a person
that's an idea.
Can become disciplined. Right? Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Keep practicing that. So what you need to practice, listen up everybody, because obviously this isn't just for Lewis, this is for Juan as well, and for a lot of other people who are band 6 or higher, is practice explaining specific unique situations. Examiners love that because it's original English, it's detailed, it uses good vocabulary, and when you can effectively talk about a specific situation like this marshmallow experiment, that will help your score, no doubt. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Lewis. We'll talk again soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye for now. All right, that was Lewis. That was really good. The marshmallow. Yeah, completely. It was very nostalgic for me. I remember the chocolate chip cookie experiment. I think some of my classmates maybe even did that experiment in our university. So very interesting. Yeah, don't eat the cookie. I'll come back in 10 minutes and give you 2. Okay. Murtazo, I'll get you to unmute yourself. I don't think we've heard from Murtazo in a while. Mohammed, I see you in there.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Murtazo. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, finally.
Yes, indeed, Murtazo. I know we were having a little bit of trouble through the website, so I figured we'll just skip it today and just jump right into Zoom. All right, but Murtazo, remember, I think you're a premium student on the website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent the links. Did you get the links for the Tuesday, Wednesday class?
No, yet.
Okay, I sent them. You should have them. If you don't see them, check your spam, check your trash folder. Maybe they went there. If you see them there, then change the settings. Click on the email and say send to inbox, not to spam, right? And then in the future, it saves me time too. I don't have to copy paste the link. But for now, send me an email and then I will send you those links, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, Mortazo, let's do this. So let's get into this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others.
To be honest, reading books is not my cup of tea because it's boring for me. But 4 months ago, in the December of 2023, when I finished the lessons, grammar that's sufficient for IELTS, when I put the first step towards IELTS stage, I faced with a lot of difficulties in my reading section, and my teacher, who has a A score from IELTS, especially 9 from reading, advised me to read articles, academic articles, and she gave me tons of subjects relating to the different topics from New Scientist, popular magazine in Great Britain, and it ranges a lot of topics from science to history, and I read it a lot, and at first I faced with a lot of difficulties during reading it, and I burned the midnight oil cause of it, and after 2 months I achieved a little level of comprehension, and not only comprehension, I memorized a lot of words that's useful for IELTS preparation, and I'm gonna quote from it, and one quote, it was, the more you read, the more you understand that you don't understand anything, and it was an article about the discipline, and I would recommend to read academic articles, people who want to enhance their reading score in IELTS, especially, and I enhanced my reading score from 12 to 15, and nowadays my reading score are 25, from 25 to 30.
Okay,
And
your
I
time is
reached,
up. I will stop you there. And we will now go on to part 3. All right, Murtazo. I would give you a band 6.5 for that. Okay. So it would be between fluent and good. Okay. But, Mortazo, here's the thing. I think that your speaking is closer to a 7, and you might even be able to get a score 7.5. But you have to change part of your strategy here. Do you know what that is?
I mixed the order, if I'm not mistaken.
Not really. Anybody in the chat know what Mortazo should be doing here?
I felt excitement, to be honest.
You felt a bit nervous, for sure. Lewis in the chat says you should be positive in your response, right? Yeah. Anybody? In the IELTS, Mortazo, there's a lot of really bad information on the internet and really confusing information, and it's kind of unfortunate because I think a lot of students could get higher scores if they just know what to do. So the IELTS is not about what you want to say, and I think that's the bad information on the internet. People say, oh, you know, the cue card is just there to guide you. You don't have to answer all the questions, you know, or if you're not sure, then just tell a story. You can do that, of course. Nobody's going to tell you you can't do that. Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. But you will usually get a lower score. Here, the biggest problem, Mortazo, is that you're not actually talking about a book that you read recently. right? The cue card is talk about a book that you read recently, and you try to cleverly disguise your answer by using expressions like, to be honest, reading books is not my cup of tea. And I commend you for memorizing and knowing the idiom, it's not my cup of tea. But being able to use a phrase like, it's not my cup of tea, will not earn you a score higher than a 6. Are you following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Or using a memorized phrase like, I burned the midnight oil. I like it, and it's nice, and I'll give you some points for vocabulary for sure, but it's not going to get you past a band 6 or past a band 6.5, okay? And I appreciate that you're being honest with me. I'm enjoying that you're telling me that you don't like to read books and you're not really into books, but you read some scientific articles and magazines on a variety of topics, and you would recommend people to do this to improve their English. And I appreciate that honesty, and that's fantastic. But I can't give you a band 9 just because you're being honest with me. Okay, this isn't a test of honesty or truthfulness. This is a test of English and communication. And so what I'm really looking for is, are you able to talk about the topics that I present to you? So if you change the topic of what I present to you, then how do I know that you wouldn't have talked about this topic for so many other topics, like talking about reading comprehension or learning English, or how did you prepare for this exam? I can think, well, maybe Mortazo just kind of thought about this, practiced this lots before the test, and he would choose to talk about this topic for a lot of questions, and it doesn't really show his real English. Do you get what I'm saying so far? Like, are you following me? So in the IELTS, ignore these bad advices on the internet where people are like, don't pay attention to the cue card questions, or it's just a guide, or you just need to speak. The only way that you would be able to get a high score, like a 7.5 or an 8.5 in this way, is if you had like ridiculously good communication skills and vocabulary, and you kind of talked off topic and still made a lot of sense with a lot of detail. It's much easier to get a higher score if you answer the question and you stay on topic. Okay?
Yeah,
so
I learned that when you told in this stream that we should follow the cue cards, and before I didn't know this advice.
That's right. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people on the internet, and even on the British, so some people think, oh, the British Council website or the IDP website says, the cue card is just a guide. Yes, they say that because they want you to know that you can add extra detail or you can add extra information. But they don't say that because they're telling you to talk about different topics or talk about what you want to talk about. And I really wish, maybe I will write an email to them at some point, because we have some contacts there, that they should add some more information to that part of the website that says the cue card is a guide. However, you are expected to answer these questions as much as possible. I think they missed adding that part to that description, and now people are thinking that they can just kind of talk about whatever they feel like. No, it doesn't quite work that way. So in this case, Mortazo, definitely try this cue card again and talk about a book. And if you don't like reading books and you haven't read a novel in a long time, think about a movie that you watched recently, and that's probably a book, and then talk about it like a book. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Do I try again?
No, don't try right now. I want to give somebody else a chance. And we're kind of running out of time. But what you can do, Mortazo, what you can do is you can try again at some point today, record yourself in MP3, and then send it to my email, and I will look for it and I'll give you some feedback, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Mortazo, also send me an email. So send me the MP3 recording to my email, and in that email also say, I didn't get the Zoom links for the premium class, please send them to me. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Mortazo, thank you for volunteering.
Okay, thank you too.
All right. Bye, Mortazo.
Bye.
All right, that was Mortazo. Give him a thumbs up. It's a very common mistake in the IELTS, and it's not Mortazo's fault. A lot of people out there don't know good advice from bad advice, including IELTS teachers. When you go to the IELTS exam, students, for your Part 2 cue card, focus on the questions. Focus on the card, okay? It's not just an open discussion, and it's not a free-for-all. You don't just get to choose what you want to talk about because you don't like the cue card topic. That will hurt your score, okay? Going off topic is not good. So careful, right? Okay, let's do one more here. So, Olawunmi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hi, Adrian.
Hi, Olawunmi. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Very clearly, yes. I can hear you nicely. All right. Olawunmi, can you remind me where you are?
I'm in Nigeria. This is Singular Sabi Bori.
Ah, Nigeria. Okay. All right. Olawunmi, I'm going to start you off, and then when you're ready, you can start. Okay, here we go. Are you kind of ready? Yes?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. So talk about a book that you have read recently and discuss why you would recommend it to others. Your preparation time is up. Please begin speaking.
One book that has shaped my profession and inspired me to pursue further studies and also a rewarding career is titled Rudiments in Sports Physiotherapy, written by David Maggie. It is a comprehensive guide that focuses on the assessment and rehabilitation of sports injuries. It also covers a wide range of topics, including, injury mechanisms, assessment techniques, treatment options, and rehabilitation protocols. The book also looked into various specific injuries, their management, and the role of physiotherapists in optimizing athletes' recovery and performance. During my bachelor studies in physiotherapy, I was drawn to this dynamic field of sports physiotherapy because it's an intersection, between my passion for sports and also my desire to help individuals recover from injuries. The book was highly recommended to me by my professor as a foundational text in the field, and I eagerly dive into it to deepen my understanding of sports-related injuries and their management. One aspect of the book that is really interesting and valuable to me is that it's particularly fascinated me on the emphasis on evidence-based practice. It integrates, theoretical knowledge with practical application and provides, case studies and real-world examples that actually illustrate the concepts of sports physiotherapy.
Okay.
The
I'm
book
going
is,
to stop you there. Your time is up.
yeah.
And then we will go on to part 3. All right. Olawunmi, that was really good. The audio wasn't perfectly clear, but even without the perfect audio, I could tell that you were doing a really good job talking about this book on basically sports assessment and rehabilitation. The reason why you read the book, you had beautiful vocabulary. So your vocabulary is like a band 9, your fluency is a band 9, coherence, band 9. The one aspect where you're losing a little bit, like maybe a half a band or maybe a band, depends on how many mistakes you make, is your grammar. Watch your grammar, especially your past tense. So you said I eagerly dive into it. I eagerly dove into it, right? Dove is the past of dive. I'm pretty sure I heard you say dive instead of dove, but I could be wrong. There were a couple of small grammatical oddities in your speech, but you sounded very, very natural, very, very good. The other aspect to improve for that band 9, because even with perfect grammar, sometimes it's difficult to get a band 9. For band 9, really pay attention to the questions. So this question of why would you recommend it to others, it comes up in a couple places. Before you run out of time, tell why you would recommend it. So I would suggest reading at least some chapters from this book, because most people suffer some sports injury in life, and this book could help find a great treatment for continued enjoyment in athletics. Okay, so you have to really, everybody, when you're practicing for the IELTS, and even if you're really good at English, like you are very good at English, Olawunmi, you still have to practice that 2-minute time frame and getting that complete information into the response. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does really.
Okay, try this sentence with me. So I would suggest reading at least a chapter or two from this book for most people, because almost everyone has some sports injury in life, and I think the book could help find a good treatment.
Okay, I would suggest reading at least some chapters from this book, because most people suffer some sports injury in life, and this book could help find a great treatment for continued enjoyment in athletics.
Perfect. And when the examiner hears that sentence, then they're like, okay, this student doesn't just have very good English. And this is literally how the examiner is thinking, everybody. So they're like, oh, okay, this candidate doesn't just have very good English. They have expert communication, because they really pay attention to all the questions. They can time themselves. They can control the timing of their information and communication. And that's a band 9. That's how they think in their head. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Olawunmi, thank you for volunteering. It was really nice to hear your voice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that was a really good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we had some really high band students here today and some really good descriptions of books that they read. So even though I didn't hear the exact title of Olawunmi's book, I can almost find it just by listening to the author and the topics. So that was really, really good. Students, nice job. We have a Speaking Part 3 class coming up in 25 minutes on the website. I will show you where that is. And we're going to continue using potentially Zoom in that class as well. Maybe the website chat also. We'll try them both out. The websites that we use are aehelp.com. Join our premium version of the course with the big red button. You only have to pay once. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and you get premium Zoom classes each week to prepare for your test. Thank you, Romelia, for being here as our moderator and helping out a bit in the chat. Thank you, members. There were a good number of you. Thank you, subscribers. Viewers, it was lovely to have you with me. I hope to see you in the Speaking Part 3 class. This is gieltshelp.com. Speaking Part 3 will continue on the topic of reading books and literature. So Part 3 is always connected to Part 2. Again, that will be on the website. There's a button on the website that says Join Live Class, and it will become active in 25 minutes. Okay. Nick Hill is asking, is it okay if you don't have continuous speech in part 2? Yeah, it's okay if you need to stop for a couple seconds to check your notes and the questions and think. Absolutely. There's no problem with that. Okay. Good question. IELTS help for general IELTS, everybody. Hopefully see you soon. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Bye for now, everybody.